All right, guess what? One of these days I promise to dance that song for you. It's one of my favorites, right? I've been listening to that since I was back in Guyana there, hosting Music Africa. Yeah, so a lot of you who watched when I was on Channel 9 with Music Africa and Channel 28 with by Tony Vera, that's before he lost his TV station. He sold it, and Tony and I are pretty okay. He's now some official at Gaisuco. He was bitter with the coalition. It seemed as though some folks were bitter with the coalition who were standing up and fighting against the dictatorship. Some of these folks are indeed bitter. But Tony Vera, I haven't heard from him in a while. I haven't heard a lot about him recently. But maybe he's happy that he's there. He's one of the directors, I believe, or some big one at Gaisuco. Anyways, good evening to all of you. It's really nice to be back. I know Facebook was giving a little problem. Some of you thought that you weren't going to be on here. Some of you thought that you weren't going to see me. Look, I'll tell you guys this. I'm here to stay with you guys for as long as possible. I'm not here to ditch you. And even if Facebook shuts down, you guys know that we have your back, right? On the ground via 107.1 FM. We have your back. Come elections time, we have your back. And we don't sit and wait that if Facebook is down, that you can't hear from us. You hear from us whether they're down or not. We find ways to make things happen. Again, good evening to all of you. Lots of things happening. I want to get to Skeldon, and we will be in Skeldon shortly. We will be joined by Pastor Anil Sugrim. And I oftentimes say the real deal Anil, Pastor Sugrim, is going to be with us. And here is what, speaking of Skeldon, right? Some of you probably don't know where Skeldon is, but Skeldon is at Skeldon, Corriverton, right? As we say on the quarantine top side. So here's what happened. Pastor Sugrim was on just, I believe, Friday, or it was Thursday, right? But sometime last week, the latter part of last week. And many of you who watched this program knew exactly what Pastor Sugrim, who is a counselor there for the PNCR. He's a PNC man, right? And he's representing the PNC out there. So Pastor Sugrim was talking about the fact that he wants leaders of his own party, the coalition, to be out there. And he was talking and talking and talking. Guess what happened? I want you guys to follow me on this whilst you share the link. Guess what happened? Guess who visited Skeldon today at 11 o'clock and spent about 20 minutes there? I'm looking at some of your comments. Let me see if you guys know. Who visited Skeldon today? Who visited? Who jumped in his vehicle and went up to Skeldon to talk to the people? About 200 folks went out there. And guess what? They thought that they were going there for something. But I'll await Pastor Anil to tell you guys. I see Barbara. Barbara has said, and this is Roxanne, BJ. BJ can be interpreted in so many, that initials, but I got you, BJ. Same thing, BJ. Everybody's coming out. Some addressing the rat, some BJ. I'm looking at your comments, and it's funny indeed. Barbara said the rat. You guys are something else, man. As you share the link, we're going to rock and roll this evening. I'm still smiling at some of your comments, and you guys are indeed funny. You are indeed funny. And when I say funny, somebody says saddle head. Now, don't I pass saddle, you know. I used to ride horse on the quarantine. Y'all don't do that to me. Please don't do that to me. Get wondering about, I'm all overdressed. The AC is up. And during the elections time, there was a PPP young lady who couldn't answer a question about why she joined the PPP. And she looked around, she thought for a moment, and she said, "Can you please turn the AC down?" Well, the AC is a little high here. Speaking of that young lady, guess what? She probably got a job. She's making a lot of money for the first time in her life. First time in her life. Good for people who are making money for the first time in their lives, you know. Maybe at some point. Yeah, guess who visited there? There we go. According to Stabrook News, Jagdeo announces 250,000 grant for severed sugar workers. $250,000. Let's not waste any time. Let's get straight down into business. Pastor, good evening to you. How are you doing?
Good evening, Mark. Not too bad. Just enjoying your program and glad that 107.1 FM, your platform, would have urged the VP upscaling today, and that's a good thing.
All right. So, yeah, it's a good thing. And I want to thank you also for being as vocal as you are and very brave as well. Good to see you. I know it's just a couple of minutes. We will be joined
Yes.
by the Honorable MP, Coretta McDonald, in just a couple of minutes or so. But were you surprised when this individual visited Corriverton, Skeldon?
Well, wasn't only surprised, but I was kind of shocked to know that he was in such a hurry to be at Skeldon, because I heard, many of the severed sugar workers were called to go to that meeting today at 11 o'clock. And those calls started to come in Saturday night, Sunday night, and all of those were calls that were made. But myself, I was told by some of my colleagues and friends and neighbors if I receive a call. I didn't receive a call, and I didn't expect to receive one as a severed sugar worker from Skeldon Estate. But the expectation, Mark, of most of the people that went there after they received those calls were that they would have received monies this morning. Some people took along with them their money bag. Some took their husband with them. Some took their wife with them. Some had their children with them. So people went with the expectation that they would have collected money this morning the same way that people would have collected the flood relief grant that were distributed for flood relief. So the mentality, the thinking of people was that, you know what, we're going to go there, the vice president is coming there, and they're going to hand out some cash, and I'm going to collect my portion.
Well said. Our assistant producer has signaled to me that the Honorable MP Coretta McDonald is in studio with us. We will invite her for a quick comment as well. We know you only have a couple of minutes with us, Pastor Councillor Anil Sugrib. Miss Coretta, Miss McDonald, this guy, your good friend Bharat Jagdev visited Skeldon today, rushed up there, spent about 20 minutes there, Pastor?
About roughly 20, 25 minutes.
What is your take about that, Honorable MP, that quick visit?
Well, Mark, let me say good evening to you, good evening to the pastor, and good evening to your viewers. It's always nice to be here. And I'm laughing. You know why I'm laughing? Because the vice president, the president, and the entire cabal, they think that people are stupid. And so when they do rub people the wrong way, and you start reacting, especially the sugar workers, this is one of the things that they would do, rush down there to talk with them. I don't know if you remember, let me remind you and your viewers, last week when we had the folks in Blackbush folder, and some of the women there saying, well, don't bother with them, elections coming again, they're gonna come. By the next day, those ladies were receiving their checks. So this is a whole big comic show thing. This is not anything that is genuine. This is about buying people. And this is what the PPP knows how to do well. They know how to buy you. They know how to shower you with a whole lot of monies and get you to calm down. But the sad part of it is that while we have the government attending to sugar workers who are actively involved, still working, that is, those who have decided that we want to sever ties with Gaisuko and the government and whoever else, while they are paying attention to them, there's so many other sectors who are crying out for the same engagement and attention. And mind you, in 2018, when the teachers took industrial action, the same Bharat Jagdev, as opposition leader, he held a press conference and he had a big post there on Facebook where he was saying he was lambasting the AP and UAFC government, and he was saying to them, the teachers are crying out for engagement. But in 2021, it's a different story.
We'll get to that.
Story.
It's a different story in the 2021. It's a different story. Pastor, the counselor for the PNCR in Corriverton, Skeldon area. What a great job you're doing, man. But a lot of the folks who went out there to meet with their visitor, who just popped in on them, thought, like you said earlier, that they were about to receive $100,000 cash.
Definitely, yes.
And so
that is the perspective that most people had. They're going there, they get $100,000, and probably before Christmas they'll get some more. Some was of the view that they would be getting $10,000 per week until they get re-employment back with Gaisuku. So different persons had different perspective altogether on the rumors or on the information that they gather as to how they will get this money. And like I told you before, the very VP in his address during the campaign in this area would have said that by the time the first month that they get into office, the several sugar workers would be receiving a monthly stipend until they are re-employed by Gaisuku, either at Wales, Rosal, or Skeldon. He did not make any mention today of Skeldon going back into operation. What he mentioned is that he wants Gaisuku to find out if these sugar workers, if they are currently working, if they're unemployed, if they are seeking employment with Gaisuku, or they're seeking employment elsewhere. So that's a challenge he gave Gaisuku to find out about the individual. But I hear as well, it might be surprising to know, like they're talking about the COVID vaccine card, if they're going to ask now for the severed letter from the individual that they severed to get this money to. That's another story.
In other words, majority of the people thought that are of the view that Jack Day went down there to swar them, and the people are not buying this swar, because I heard also that did he say anything about local government elections?
Nothing, sir. There was no mention of local government election. Nothing, period.
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all.
So before you go, I know you said just a couple of minutes, and I thank you so much for that, Counselor. What is your overall view of this visit? Political gimmickry, tricks?
Yeah, because, in his opening remarks, he began to lambaste the AP and UAFC government for sending home over 7,000 sugar workers who today is starving and who today is not having food on the table. But he did not tell them that from the time they took office to now, the cost of living, where it has gone from where they took over to where it is at now. He didn't say anything about that. He didn't say, about the price of fuel. He didn't talk about the price of baigan and pepper and bora and okra and beef and chicken and pork. He didn't say anything about that. But what he said as well, that, that Granger promised Isle money is not going to be given to the people because they got to build a hospital at Skeldon, a hospital at Port Morant, and they got to do a lot of work. And so they can't look forward for that. But what they can look forward for is $250,000 grant from the government by December. And he weren't specific in his timeline, December or the ending of January. Now, when people heard that, there were many people that were disappointed and begin to leave. People begin to leave. People begin to left. And meanwhile, why that was taking place, they made an announcement that NARI had officials there and people who were dissatisfied with the way they were treated for the flood relief grant, that what happened, they could go and give their name to these officials Somebody even look after dogs, somebody look after fowls, somebody look after garden. People even, were very frustrated. People use, their own terminology and language and all of that. And some people said, we would have already give her a name 2-3 times. Should we give her a name again? And we didn't get anything, Nobody made contact with us from these many times. And so people even then give away, but like everything else, their stronghold and their support base and people who, link with them, stayed around, rally around, and so forth. And then he left. The vice president left, and some people left going back to that quick giving their names and so on, where most people leave. Most people leave because their motive was to go there today so that they're going to get some money probably and go to the market or the supermarket or something. And that was not the case.
I can only imagine how they felt and those people, because they are very smart people throughout the country. They know when they're being taken for granted by politicians. And no doubt, Barajagdia heading to Skeldon, the Corriverton area, was there to basically make a mockery of the people. They're not certain that they're going to get their monies, 250,000 by December of this year or the latest January 22. We'll see when that time comes. They don't have any future plan for sugar workers. They're just mimicking, they're just laughing, making a mockery of sugar workers, using them as political tools and pawns. But the people are opening their eyes, and I say kudos to the sugar workers. Before you go quickly, Pastor Anil Sugrim, a counselor for the PNCR in Skeldon, the burning of the police station being burnt down, at least close to 90 or 90 something percent of Brigham police station totally gone. What's the sentiment there on the ground by the people? What are they thinking?
Many persons that I spoke to and many persons that we engaged talking about that, do believe it's a theory that is planned. People believe that it's not just something that came out of that confession. People just didn't believe. In Guyana, you can get a confession out of somebody for something. That can happen. And so people do not take that theory well in believing that. A young man was telling me this morning, he had a hard time getting his driver's license, and he driver's driver's test, and now the record is not there. So wonder how you can get the license. And next man said, well, they just stop you the road, and the police will stop you the road, and he had the bag, and they take his COVID card. So if you can get a COVID card, how you can get back your COVID card? It burned up in Brigham. And so people making mockery and fall out of these things because of how it happened and what they're saying about how it happened and all of that. Oh, something strange happened there. And it's hard to accept what they're telling us. And it's hard to believe what they're telling us. And, because there isn't a truth out of it up to now. And so you can just take somebody, get somebody to make a confession. But I am for one not going to accept the fact of what you're telling me is the story.
I want to thank you so much for your time. I know I said 10 minutes of your time, but you have gone way past that. As always, you are willing to give your time as well. And we appreciate that, Councillor Anil Sugrim, pastor, all the way there in Skeldon. You are not going to be a stranger here on 107.1 FM at all. Thank you so much for all that you do out there for the people.
Yeah, thank you, and good to be with you, Honorable MP, and y'all keep pressing on, as we all need to press on for the higher calling.
Thank you so much, Pastor.
Yes.
Appreciate
good night.
it. Good night. All right, always a pleasure to speak with Councillor Anil Sugrim there, representing the PNCR, the coalition out there in Skeldon. Yes. Miss McDonald, sorry, welcome. There is the suspect. His name is, they're saying that his name is some Green. We'll begin with that. We'll also begin with this here. That's the lighter, a piece of sponge, and a wire. And that guy allegedly confessed to the police that he used a lighter, a piece of sponge, and that wire, and he bore a hole, he pushed it through, and the sponge, he lit the sponge and he pushed it up, it curved in somewhere else, and it touched some documents, and that's how the bacchanal started. This is the bacchanal because of what this guy, said to be jobless. Some folks are saying that he is basically, I don't want to describe anybody as a junkie, but quote unquote, that is what he is. He smokes and all sort of things. And a lot of things going through my mind, even though some folks are saying they've never seen a superhero in Guyana, a fire superhero. And this guy Green, they're saying, has got to be a fire superhero to have done all of those things. Your take to begin with, and good night and welcome again to Straight Up. Your take on this alleged confession.
Thanks, Mark. Let me start off first by saying, if you tell that story to a nursery school child, one, they're not going to buy this story. And two, the amount of questions that they're going to ask you. They're going to ask you questions like, how did this young man get in there with a lighter? Wasn't he patted down by the police? Where did he get the sponge from? How did he get this wire? Wasn't nobody looking at him wherever he was? Nobody was looking at him then. When this fire started, the police station, they would ask you questions like these. The police station ain't got fire extinguishers. They ain't got a fire alarm. How did they allow this fire to go off like this and to burn this entire building? And but Mark, this thing is so laughable that I think that Guyanese people should be calling for the resignation of the Commissioner of Police, the Minister of Home Affairs, the President too, because these people are so laughable. You know what they're doing now? They have decided to hold on to Clarence Green, whatever his name is, as one scapegoat. And then the second scapegoat is the fire chief. Because you heard the president lashing out at the fire chief and talking about how much investment they're making and they're not getting that in return. Foolishness. It is alleged that when this fire started, the police had enough time to evacuate the prisoners and to load them off to Sparandam, but they forgot to call the fire service. Could you imagine that? They had no fire extinguishers there. They had no, this thing is so crazy, and you expect people to buy, you expect sensible people, literate people, not illiterate people, literate people to believe this kind of story. No way, we're not buying that story. We're not buying it at all. This story here now is a whole make-up story that, when you're planning a play and you have the different scenes, this is what we have here, because you know what is going to happen? Somebody's friend is going to get some $1 billion contract. Let me make this story so. Somebody's friend is going to get $1 billion contract to rebuild that.
All right, 29 minutes after 9 o'clock, the Honorable Member of Parliament, Coretta McDonald, is here with us this evening. We're talking about the fire, but of course, you want to talk about the strike. We want to talk about the protest, the Guyana Teachers Union. We want to ask what is happening with that. But before we get to that, I want to let you guys know that this is what the police did today. According to the news, they took this guy back, Clarence Green. That is what they're saying that his name is. Clarence Green. They took him back to Brickdam lockups so that he can show them what he did, allegedly. And they also walked with this mattress. This is so comical. This guy doesn't have a lawyer. He is said to be a quote-unquote junkie. They are taking advantage of him. This guy should have been there with a lawyer. He doesn't have a lawyer, according to investigations. I've had some guys hit the streets on Princess Street, Miss McDonald, looking for the guy's address. This is what they stumble upon. Nothing. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. 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 Absolutely nothing. And even the police now have come to the conclusion that he has given them wrong address. Lie number one. Lie number two, possibly, his name is not Clarence Green. That's another possibility. The other thing that the police is saying to the general public is that this guy Green, Clarence Green, was locked up for some armed robbery. The police cannot say exactly when and where and who is the victim. They just cannot say that. What they're saying, though, is that this guy was locked up for a couple of hours and then he got frustrated. Another question mark. But before we get back into this is what happens on a crime scene, and I will just try to break it down as quickly as possible for you. The absence. First responders should immediately establish control of the scene. That did not happen. They didn't take control of the scene. Nothing. Initiate documentation of the scene. Nothing. To establish security and control. Nothing. First responders should set up security perimeter. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It shows that what is on their mind. Let us go here now. How is evidence collected from a fire scene? When fire scene evidence is collected, the fire investigator, and all these different things, we have seen none of that. Primary evidence samples and comparison samples, none of that. And now, look, this is interesting. Quickly, Ms. McDonald, just for the benefit of our listeners and viewers. What are the 7 steps of a crime scene investigation? Look, the 7 steps are there. Secure the scene. That did not happen at Brickdam Police Station. Separate the witnesses. Nothing of that happened. Scan the scene. In fact, they scraped up, they bulldozed the scene. What else? Photograph the evidence. That did not happen. Sketch the scene. That did not happen. Search the scene. That did not happen. Secure and collect evidence. That did not happen at all. But yet they want people to believe their Nancy stories. I don't know. Anything else you have to say before we get to teachers union and strike and all these things?
Mark, just to say that the Guyanese people are realizing how incompetent this government is. They have recognized that over 1 year ago, all that has been added to Guyanese is stress and more stress, which is a whole gamut of issues that is causing this stress. And so when you hear the alleged report that the guy said he was frustrated, then I can understand that, but I don't buy it. But there are so many issues. Brick Dam is only one of the mysteries that we are having. We got the other mystery at the Mabaroom Secondary School. We got North Rumvelt Secondary School, and we have so many other fires that were started. We had one at the police station too. So these are all the pieces of the puzzle that the PPP they already have those pieces there laid out, and so they're trying to fix them in. And in fixing them, they are misfixing the pieces. And so everybody is seeing as clear as day what exactly the PPP is about. The elite group, family, and their cronies. That's what they're all about.
Indeed, that's what they're all about. We already see that. The evidence is quite clear that that is exactly what they're all about. Before Ms. McDonald leave us, I will get back to the fire and this alleged confession. But let us move on now to the Guyana Teachers Union. Let us talk about the strike and all these different things. It was going really nice a few weeks ago or so. Powerful indeed. We saw some boots on the ground and everything. But what is happening with the strike, the teacher strike?
But what has happened, Mark, is that we saw of course, the Ministry of Education, when Priya thought she had control over what is happening, she had no control. She recognized that she had no control over what is happening. And so many of the teachers who were locked out of schools during the protest action, Those in some of the regions, those schools, teachers were allowed to go into schools without presenting a blue book or without presenting a test results, a PCR test results from any of the organizations that they have identified. And so that in itself caused us to have had to pull back a little and to have a review of what is happening. I can say to you, in Region 2, and that's on the Essequibo coast, we saw maybe just about 35% of our teachers there taking action. And of course, you know, that region is heavily politicized. Many of the persons who live there are supporters of the PPP. And so quite a lot of our teachers were fearful, they were threatened. And we respected that while their hearts was in this whole thing, that they could not come out on the streets to be identified, many of them. But we saw the bravery of some of our teachers, and I want to applaud them for coming out there, having their placards in front of the Department of Education and voicing their concern. We saw this happening after 3 weeks. We saw this happening throughout the country, that in order for the Ministry of Education to be able to say, well, look, teachers got fed up and teachers didn't want this and teachers didn't want that, they decided to relax the rules and to allow teachers to go in school. And that would have caused us to have take a step back, to review and to re-strategize, to come all out again stronger than we were before. And that's why you've seen a halt in that. But I can say to you, Mark, our teachers, they have read the passage. They've answered the questions. And they're now at, when the Ministry of Education, when they're thinking that the teachers are now going to be answering questions, the teachers are doing spelling now, so the teachers are way ahead of them. And our teachers are resilient, and they will continue to stand up for what they believe in. Mind you, let me make this clear. The union is not opposed to vaccination. Let me make that one clear, because I've recognized that the message that the PPP they're spreading out there, or the Ministry of Education in particular, they're saying that the union is anti-vax. I want to say that the union is not opposed to vaccination. All that we are saying is, look, our teachers who want to have the vaccines, they are demanding the Pfizer vaccines. Make that available to them, because we would have had so many issues with the Sputnik V, the AstraZeneca, and all the others that we're having. And so teachers are now saying, we want to have the Pfizer vaccines. For some of our teachers who are saying they're not yet prepared to take the vaccines, it's because they're not yet fully convinced that this is the way they ought to go. Because many of the questions that they've had have not been answered. And so teachers are skeptical when you're hearing about blood clots and people dying and all kinds of other things happening to persons. Teachers are skeptical, and teachers are saying, give us the information, give us the information, give us the information. And that in itself would cause some sort of conviction in our minds, which would prepare us to take the vaccines. Some are saying they're not prepared to take the vaccines because of religious reasons and that kind of thing. And they're saying, look, we are prepared to take the test, but you must make the test, and as the Ministry of Education, your employer, you must make the test free of charge. Pay for the testing for us, and we are prepared to have that testing done. And you know, this here, what the ministry is trying to force on our teachers, is flying right in the face of the law, because the law is clear on it. If your employer is demanding from you certain things, then the employer must stand the cost of that. But you know, I've seen the Minister of Labor, the installed Minister of Labor. I guess he probably goes through this phase of having hot flashes. So at one time he's saying one thing that is in accordance with the law, and then at the flip of a script, he's saying something else, which is totally on the opposite side of the law. And you hear things like, oh, when the law was written, there wasn't a pandemic, as if the law changes every 2 seconds. And sometimes I wonder whether this guy is really sane, or maybe he is one of the persons that Priya Manikchand referred to. We treat them as though they're illiterate. You know, I sometimes believe he falls into that category. But again, let me say the union is not opposed to vaccines. As a matter of fact, we've been encouraging our members to have their vaccines taken. And we are saying those teachers who don't want to take the vaccines now, then we ought to respect their choices. Those teachers who have taken the vaccines, we respect their choice. Those teachers who are still in the deciding mode, we're saying to the Ministry of Education, make the information available to teachers and allow teachers to decide what they want to do. Don't force anything on them. But you know, this is the PPP and this is how they operate. All they believe in is bullyism and threatening people and forcing you. And if they don't do that, then they tell you all sorts of things. Well, we're going to deduct money from your salaries, those kinds of threats. But I can say to you, many of our teachers are saying, you cut we pay, we don't care, because the union got we back. You know, and teachers will continue to hold on to that.
Indeed, all of that. Just about 2+ weeks ago, we saw the energy. The teachers were willing and ready to stand up for their rights. The Guyana Teachers Union was there backing them every step of the way. People were looking forward for this legal confrontation. Then it suddenly died. And then here it is now, you as General Secretary of the Union is saying that it will resurrect again and 10 times better. How confident are you that the teachers would want to come back out again?
Well, Mark, you see, there are different ways of dealing with your issues. And so our teachers don't have to be in the streets to demonstrate their disapproval or their displeasure. There are different ways. If you look at what is happening in Trinidad now, as a matter of fact, let me say to you, the Caribbean Union of Teachers, the Guyana Teachers Union falls a part of or is affiliated to. We have been there and we have been working together. And so you're going to see a whole series of events happening across the Caribbean amongst our teachers' unions. And so Trinidad, they have already indicated what they're going to be doing. And you're going to see many more of that following. And of course, Guyana Teachers Union is going to be a part of that.
Well, people want, of course, the people in Trinidad and across the Caribbean and so forth. It sounds all nice. People want boots on the ground with the teachers. The teachers must not be bullied by Priya Manik-Chan and her gang and these sort of things. But I don't know. I was kind of surprised that the teachers actually decided to take the back seat. We saw that Priya Manik-Chan withdrew the, I believe you guys had, some sort of scholarship with the union. She took that back. We saw that bullying tactics, and I'm beginning to wonder whether that took a toll on the teachers and that caused the teachers union to decide to pull back, observe, and then probably come again stronger, as you said. Was that the case? The bullying tactics worked?
No, Mark. That is not so. What the minister did there was she was just being her usual self. The regular cuss out thing, the regular throwing threats out there. The fact is we have a legal agreement. And no one partner can decide to pull any part of that agreement or to pull away from any part of that agreement. That's a legal agreement and it's binding on both sides. So if there's any pulling, we have to wait until that agreement would have expired and we start our new negotiations and we can decide that, okay, this will go this way and that will go that way. And of course, we have to rub heads and shoulders at the table in deep negotiations before that can happen. So with regards to the scholarship, and you know, it's so crazy because Priya Manik-Chan herself knows. You heard her coming up with a whole lot of stories, and they like this Nancy story thing. And little children now, you can't tell your children Nancy's story, and you can't even tell them that Santa did this and Santa brought this, and children don't buy that. More so to tell big people them kind of stories. We have seen, as a matter of fact, Priya Manik-Chan knows that within the scholarship committee, her human resources manager is the co-chair for that committee. So when you hear the talks about GTU wavering scholarship in front of teachers and threatening teachers. I mean, this scholarship process complete already. They have teachers who are in their second year. What can we waver in front of them to tell them about strike, whether they come or not to come? We don't pay for that. The government of Guyana pays their tuition fee. So I don't know what kind of dangle we could be, what kind of weight we could be dangling in front of them. With regards to the new students, the new first years who are going to be at the University of Guyana, the Ministry of Education's representative was right there, and the reps from the 3 counties, along with the second vice president of the Guyana Teachers Union, where they would normally sit, they pull the applications, they divide them as per county, and each county they've been divided into regions, and each region has a specific quota. The co-chair and the chair, they would sign off on every single one of those forms. When the short listing would have been done, it is the human resource manager who would write to the PS indicating that these are the teachers who were identified for the scholarship, to be part of the scholarship program. And then the PS writes to the University of Guyana saying, look, these are the teachers who were selected, who were successful in the process, and we're indicating to you that we are going to pay the fees for them. Please accept them. So I don't know what's this whole big story with Priya, but like everything else, that's how she operates. The same thing with the duty-free concessions. The GTU doesn't grant duty-free concessions. That is granted by, between 2015 and 2020 or 2019, it was granted by and approved by the Minister of State. This time around, they are approved by the Minister of, what is it? Gail Teixeira, whatever is her portfolio at this time. And so to say that the GTU is wagging anything in front of teachers, that's a whole big make-up story. GTU doesn't do that. We submit to the Ministry of Education 100 names, 25 head teachers, 25 deputies, 25 HODs, which is heads of departments, and the 25 senior masters and mistresses. When we submit all of the teachers' information to the Ministry of Education, the Human Resources Department, again, they would go through those with a fine-teeth comb. They would call up the teachers if there's a misspelling in name, they would call up the teachers and everything. So to say that the GTU has been dangling anything in front of the teachers, it's a complete lie. And we know that Priya is good at that. She's very notorious, good at doing those kinds of things, you know?
Very, very notorious for a lot of things, possibly. Who knows? You never know. But 48 minutes after 9 o'clock, Curta McDonald, Member of Parliament, she's also Secretary General, or General Secretary, sorry, for the Guyana Teachers Union. The president of the Guyana Teachers Union is Mark Light. Mark Light attended Winifred Gaskin Memorial Secondary School. Curta McDonald attended Winifred Gaskin Memorial Secondary School. And guess who else attended Winifred Gaskin Memorial Secondary School? Gosh.
Mark.
Thank you. Winifred Gaskin Memorial Secondary School. Forget about them QC and bishops and them. That's the QC of Guyana, because it has produced a lot of people. Well, let me ask you this. In terms of the strategy, can we assume that yourself and the president of the union, Mr. Mark Light, see eye to eye in terms of strategy?
Yeah, Mark, like everything else, in every organization, you're going to have ups and downs. You're going to have a disagreement there and a disagreement here. But at the end of the day, it's not about your personal belief. It's not about what you want as a person. It's what is best for the organization. And so while we are going to have our difficulties, the interest of our teachers is first and foremost in our minds, and that's our mandate, to represent and to be there to ensure that our teachers are given their part and or their equal share of the bargains or what comes out of the negotiations. And so we have been there battling, putting strategies together, and we have been mobilizing. We have gone down there to meet with our teachers all across this country. I can tell you we are doing that all over again. and we're getting from our teachers what are some of the things that they think would work in the different areas. Because like everything else, the teachers on the coast, it's easy for them to come out on the streets, turn up in front of the Ministry of Education. But our teachers in the Rupununi Deep South, it's a different strategy that we have to employ there. And so those are some of the things that we have gone out there to do, as well as working with our counterparts in the Caribbean, because some of the issues, or many of the issues, are about the same. We are going to be working there to move our strategies or put our strategies together, so that when we decide that we are going to be coming out there, because you noticed we were not on strike, we were on protest action. So whenever we decide to come out there, if it's going to be protest action, then we'll have protest action. If we're going to be taking industrial action, which is a strike, then that's a different story, where we are going to readily inform our counterparts at the Ministry of Education and at the Ministry of Labor.
You know, Ms. McDonald, whether it's protest action, whether it's industrial strike action, whatever it is, people just want to see action.
Action, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
People want to see action for a good cause, good trouble. Every Wednesday, you guys were assembling in front of Coffee there. Coffee was so happy to see you, because you know that's a struggle that Coffee loves. What has happened with that now, that every Wednesday struggle?
Well, for the last, I think, maybe 2 or 3 Wednesdays, we did not assemble there. What has caused that? I think it's 2 Mondays or so ago, when we had the call for the shutdown, and then the persons started getting together, mobilizing themselves to go. They were actually going to stand in front of the office of the president, you know, and the police took evasive action, because they thought that the citizens were attempting to walk down Regent Street to disturb what was happening there. And so they started scattering the crowd, and they held quite a lot of people. I think on Tuesday, they were out there again. On Tuesday, they were out there again on Wednesday. That kind of drove some fear into some persons. But I can tell you what, that has not died a natural death. That is going to be up and running again. But like everything else, you've got to be able to decide what you're going to do and exactly how you're going to do it. You're not going to be having 1 and 2 and 3 leaders. If we are going to have somebody assigned to that kind of activity right there, then that's the person who is going to be the leader. You see, sometimes when you have more than 1 leaders, we have some bit of confusion. So that is under discussion right now. And it's not only going to be at Coffee Square, but it's going to be at different points. And so if you have to be at a location, then if you have to move from the Coffee Square, you know what the police will do. They're going to come there. You notice how many shields they took out of the Brigdam police station. They're going to come ready with those. We are not there to have any confrontation with the police. We are there to say clearly how we feel. As a matter of fact, let me say, during the coalition's term in government, even one Ejil was allowed to protest loudly in the parliament at the Pegasus Hotel when the president was there ready to deliver his feature address. And nobody there, not even the police, collected anybody there, charged anybody, manhandled anybody. And yes, you're seeing that there. And so what we're seeing here is a total turnaround with the Guyana Police Force, a 360 turnaround. And here is where we have some of the rogue ones who are popping up now, and they're showing exactly who they are. But people are reading them, people are pointing them out, and people will never forgive them and never forget them for some of the things that they have done and some of the things that they're continuing to do to oppress our citizens, our innocent citizens who want to express their disapproval. And you know what is sad? It is sad that when you have people assembling at Coffee, or you have persons assembling in front of the Ministry of Education or somewhere else, quick time you're seeing the police out and ready to tell you, you have to move. You cannot be assembling here. This is illegal. But then when you have these same kinds of protests on the quarantine, you're not seeing the policemen and women out there with all their shields and their weapons and all the vehicles and the buses to collect anybody, you know. And this is quite disturbing. And this in itself is saying to all of us that this is not about any one Guyana. And I've always been saying this. This is about 3 Guyanas, not 1 Guyana.
All right, if you're now joining us, let me welcome some of the first-time trenchies here. We see a couple of their comments. We understand. It's not a distraction. One of the things that we do not do here on Straight Up or on 107.1 FM, we do not allow them to distract us at all. We just either throw them in the trench and we keep going. So the operator just signaled to me that 2 of them gone into the trenches there. So goodbye, Trenchy. Thank you so much, Lemon. What else is happening in the country as it pertains to teachers and maybe some other problems happening? So you can tell our listeners.
Well, Mark, we have the teachers' issues now are not different from the issues that teachers had in 2018. The issues are the same. The only addition we would have had to our issues now is that of COVID-19. The vaccines, teachers being infected, pupils being infected, cleaners being infected, and it is disgusting and disrespectful when we have a Minister of Education who would say to teachers, don't allow this information to get out. If you have teachers who are infected with COVID, don't allow this information to get out. The departments of education are saying to teachers in schools, you're going to close your school for 1 day, have the school sanitized, and the next day you're going to reopen schools. Don't even say to parents why the school is being closed. And this is so disgusting. But like I said earlier, the issues that teachers are having now are no different to the issues we had before. And it's so hypocritical that the same Barra Jagdeo who spoke against the coalition government when he was in opposition and said that he must, the president then, David Braintree, he must engage the teachers. Teachers are crying out for engagement. The teachers' strike is legitimate. The teachers have every reason to strike. Teachers must be paid. This same Barra Jagdeo is now saying that our strike is political. It's political. Everything about this action now, this protest action, is political. As a matter of fact, Priya herself said that our strike, our protest action, is political. We have sought to get from the Ministry of Education. And the things that we're asking for are simply, 2019, 2020, and this is 2021. Teachers have grown accustomed under the PPP government to be receiving their increases in January of every year. So while other public servants would receive theirs in December, teachers receive theirs in January. We've had 2019, 2020, and this is 2021. We're in October of 2021. And we have not received any increase from the Ministry of Finance or from the government of Guyana with regards to teachers. We have seen teachers who have been upgraded, their statuses have been upgraded. And that is, they've moved from the level of assistant mistress to senior mistress. Or they've probably completed the University of Guyana, and so they're now a graduate. All of those teachers have not had their salaries upgraded because there was no salary increase in 2019, 2020, 2021. And that's all we're asking for. As a matter of fact, since the minister resumed duties, or since she was appointed and assumed the duties, let me say that, in August of this year, I think it was the second week in August of last year, we started having meetings with the minister. And at every forum, we were asking, what about teachers' increases? What about teachers' increases? And on many occasions, we got Well, we have to talk with our folks at the Ministry of Finance. We have to talk with them. We're working on it. We're working on it. And then finally you heard, well, the Ministry of Education don't pay salaries. We don't give increases. We have to wait on the Ministry of Finance. And then we recognize that this was a whole circle. They had us going around and around. And at every forum, they found a different answer to give to you. Now, we've asked about the Teaching Service Commission, which is out of operation because the life expired.
Well, I was gonna ask you about that next. Quickly, what's going on with the teachers?
Yes, we raised that with the Minister of Education and her team. As a matter of fact, we wrote to the president, illegal, put in, installed, whatever he is. At the end of the day, he's the president of the country, the installed president of the country. And so we would have written to him, urging him to please consider having the Teaching Service Commission reinstated, have the new persons, and I'm sure many of the agencies who have to identify persons to sit on that commission, they've already done so. But the president is just disrespectful, and that is his way of punishing teachers. You know why? Because they have seen many of the teachers as being supporters of the coalition, and that is their way of punishing the teachers. So you don't have a commission, teachers are going to continue to act. Some of them will act until they retire, because if there's no commission, then there can be no senior appointments, there can be no just minimal numbers with regards to junior appointments, but you can't have senior appointments like senior masters and mistresses, heads of departments, deputy head teachers and head teachers. You can't have that without the Teaching Service Commission. What you'll have is for those schools that are board operated schools that are controlled by the minister, where the minister can approve and disapprove. Those are the schools that we are going to see appointments being made, because you have the school board secretariat. And if you look around, you're going to see Queen's College and Bishops and St. Rose's and St. Joseph and some of the schools that this cabal is friendly to. Those are the schools that they're going to be looking at. As a matter of fact, let me say further, we have not yet received the grade 6 results, but we've already heard the minister talking about expanding on the numbers of students that are going to be attending these schools. Even though teachers are crying out, because there's always, every year, you always have your forward planning. And so every school would say to the Department of Education, how many students you can, how many new students you can take. But we have seen different stories happening. So you know what is going to happen there. Anybody's child who is a friend, anybody who is a friend of the cabal group, their children are going to now get a space at either Queen's College or Bishop's High or St. Rose's or maybe at St. Stanislaus, because they're now widening the gap. So when
St. Stanislaus, and we all got your point, they're widening the gap, and kids who don't deserve to go to some of these top schools will end up there. And one of the things that I oftentimes wonder, though, that all of the officials in Guyana, or for the most part, ministers and so forth, all their kids end up at either QC or bishops. And I oftentimes wonder, how come none of them pass to go to Queenstown Community High or Charlestown Secondary? Or, I mean, I'm not knocking those schools, but this time around, watch and see how many of them will be going to QC, including you know who's kid.
Yes, of course.
As well. You mentioned St. Stanislaus. Will they be going there to school or to make a police report, because it's now a police station? Have you, the union, been informed about this latest development?
There was no such consultation. Sorry. And this is one of the issues that we've had, where we've been saying to the Minister of Education, you seem to be law, order, policy, chief education officer, deputy chief, everything, because you know, man, it's so disgusting that we have several senior officers within the Ministry of Education, But none of these officers can speak to policy issues except they're told to say one word or maybe to read a sentence. If you reflect on a couple of maybe a month or 2 months ago when there was a press conference, a hurriedly called press conference when the GTU held a protest action in front of the Ministry of Education. You had the minister there talking about everything, and she had her 2 soldiers next to her, not a word coming from them. The PS and the Chief Education Officer, not a word coming from them. The minister spoke about every single thing. And this is the kind of action that we're seeing from her, where she bullies her way through every single thing. And so no other officer who's responsible for particular areas with regards to policy, none of them can say anything. They can't even ask questions. As a matter of fact, we have some officers, some senior officers who are not invited to senior officers meeting. Some senior officers have just been pushed in a corner. They have a desk and they receive their salaries and so on, but they're not involved in any single thing. Nothing, no decision making, no meeting, no nothing.
Sad situation.
Sad.
We know Priya loves to follow you wherever you go. So we are almost 100% certain that she's watching you tonight.
I know.
And Priya, we just want you to know right here on 107.1, if you want to sit here tomorrow evening with Miss Coretta McDonald to debate the issue, give me a call or inbox me on Facebook. You have never been a stranger to inbox me on Facebook. But I haven't heard from you recently, and I'm beginning to wonder why. But Priya might be busy because she's an expert in everything. And there she is, observing the fire instead of just putting the fire out, and she's standing there, foot twist up, and oh gosh, look, Priya. I don't know who the other 2 folks are. I can't recognize them.
One is Anil and one is the bishop.
Oh, and Anil, what position he holds? Because the only Anil that I know is the Anil that was on earlier. Any other Anil, I don't recognize them in the regime. And so I don't recognize that guy in the middle. Neither do I recognize that guy who ran from Linden. Oh, sorry, we're on the radio. He didn't run from Linden at all. Quickly before we go, Miss McDonald, I heard a report about Miss Vanessa Kisoon and some other teachers have been given eviction notice from the government student quarters. How accurate is that? And if so, what is it that the union is doing about the situation?
Well, Mark, we saw as a matter of fact, Vanessa called me and she did indicate to me that she has been given a very, very short time frame within which to remove from the facility under the guise that they are going to be repairing the facility. It's not only Vanessa Kisoon and some other teachers in Region 10, but we have teachers in Bartica, teachers in Port Kaituma, and we have teachers who are in Mabaroom, I think it is, where they have been asked to remove from the government quarters. As a matter of fact, teachers who were on protest action in Region 7, they were reminded, those in Region 7 and in Port Kaituma, they were reminded that you are on the streets and you're living in government quarters. And so as a result of that, that's the outcome where under the guise again of wanting to have those buildings repaired, you're asking persons to remove. The union has said to many, many of our teachers, especially those in the far-flung areas, you were asked to go to these regions to teach. And these quarters were made available for you to be there. Unless you're removing from those areas, then you remain right in those quarters. Let them come and lift your belongings and put them on the streets. I've indicated to Vanessa Kisoon, you are a Guyanese woman. You are a mother, just like I heard Gail talking about Priya the other day. So I said to Vanessa, you're a Guyanese woman. You're a mother. You're a sister. You're somebody else's niece. You're somebody's friend. You're a teacher. you have children, and so you're going to remain right there until you can find somewhere that is comfortable for you to go. If this place is in so much daring needs of repair, they'll have to wait on you to find somewhere to go, somewhere that is feasible, and that is financially that you can afford before you step out of there. Otherwise, to that, let them remove you. And this is, these are all clear cases again of who the PPP are and what they do when they can't get hold of you, when they can't control you. And Mark, you've seen them doing all sorts of things with me. The latest being Coretta McDonald involved in duty-free scam, where I sold my parliamentary duty-free to some businessman for $7 million. And so these are the kinds of things they get involved in. They have a very good propaganda machine.
But that is not true, though, right? That is not.
Mark, let me say to you, I have not even started the process. And so the only thing I said on my Facebook page was, Clerk of the National Assembly, Mr. Isaacs, kindly respond to this. Because I found it very comical. And this is what they do when they can't get to you. This is what they do. But like everything else, we have to continue to give the kinds of support to our members. We have to, every time they call, we have to listen to them and we have to advise them. And we've been calling those regions to remind them that teachers have been placed in these quarters because they are providing a service to the nation. And if you want them removed, then you have to give them enough time. And if that time elapses, then you still have to give them some more time until they can find somewhere that is comfortable for them to go. You just don't remove people like that.
Well said. 12 minutes after 10 o'clock, Ms. Carter McDonald, the Honorable Member of Parliament, she's here, all fired up. We spoke about so many different things, and I'm hoping that this coming Wednesday we can see some people back at Boots on the Ground at Coffee. Coffee probably missed you guys, man.
I know.
Coffee missed you guys. We all miss you guys. All the people, we miss you guys. We want Boots on the Ground indeed. In fact, I went out and I bought my boots, size 9.
Size 9.
Truck boots. If you see me, I'm all set. But I haven't been seeing much Boots on the Ground, and so I just put my boots back in the box, waiting for Boots on the Ground. Miss McDonald, it's always a pleasure to have you on. But your closing remarks, please.
It's always good to be here, Mark. But before I go, let me say to all those who are listening, tomorrow we are going to be observing International Teachers Day. It's always October 5th, and that's the day that has been set aside by UNESCO to give recognition to teachers all across this world, to recognize their commitment and their dedication. Of course, we cannot add any value to what teachers do all the time. And so tomorrow, teachers are going to be celebrating Teachers Day under the theme, Teachers at the Heart of Education Recovery. Teachers at the heart of education recovery. And I want to take this opportunity to thank our teachers from the bottom of my heart for all that they have been doing within the education sector and even outside of the education sector. As a matter of fact, our teachers are teachers all around the clock. They are teachers in school, they are teachers on the streets, they are teachers in their homes, and teachers have been working beyond the call of duty. More than that, our teachers are the real champions, because during the pandemic, when there was no vaccination, our teachers were out there ensuring that our children were well equipped and ready for not only the grade 6 examinations, but CSEC and the CAPE. They ensured that all of our children, our boys and girls in the secondary schools and in the primary schools, they were fully engaged. Teachers took their own time to walk the streets, to deliver worksheets to children within their communities. And those were some of the children who hadn't any access to internet facility or internet connectivity. And so teachers, I want to thank you on behalf of the Guyana Teachers Union for what you have been doing for Guyana's children and for what you'll continue to do for them, even when the odds are against you. And so tomorrow, I'm going to ask you to relax, reflect, reorganize, and let's all be rejuvenated so that we can stand there as the resilient people we are to demand what is rightfully ours. And so to the parents out there, I want to say to you, let us continue to support, because I'm speaking here as a parent too. Let's continue to support our teachers. Let's continue to champion their cause, because when our teachers are comfortable, your children are going to be even more comfortable, and your work at home will become lighter, To all our teachers, happy Teachers Day in advance, and may God continue to bless you.
And thank you so much, because you yourself, you're a teacher. Thank you for your service. I was made to understand that you have a birth anniversary that's around the corner. How does it feel to be 60? You're a little over 60 or 16. I don't know. Somebody called me earlier to say it's your sixth. All I heard was 6. So I'm assuming that it's 16.
16.
Yeah.
So that's going to be tomorrow. And like everything else, Mark, my birthdays are usually spent with teachers. I am all around the place delivering tokens to teachers, thanking them for their invaluable service. And so tomorrow is going to be no different. But I must say one thing though.
Sure.
Usually the Ministry of Education, we hadn't forums where teachers were, huge forums that is, where teachers were recognized. But tomorrow we have recognized that there's an activity there that would not be recognizing all teachers, but they're going to be recognizing teachers who would have given 30 years service and more to this profession. While the initiative is a good one, we see this as a way of being of discriminating against our teachers, because tomorrow is International Teachers Day. It doesn't say teachers who would have served 30 years and more or less than 30 years. It's teachers across this spectrum we're recognizing tomorrow. So why do you want to discriminate against teachers? If you're going to honor teachers, honor teachers. And you know, I really don't want to go into it too much, but I can tell you what some of our teachers across the country have been saying. Some teachers have been messaging me to say, Miss, I got food in my house. I just eat so luncheon. That is total disrespect to me. Somebody else said, Miss, rice shortage. So they moved the age code, the age that they were looking at 28 years, they moved it up to 30 years. So plenty people can go. And these are some of the things that persons are saying. Some teachers are saying, I'm a head teacher, and these are from head teachers. I'm a head teacher, and my service, my commitment, and my dedication to this profession is not worth a lunch. What is a lunch? They think I they're bad, and these are the words of teachers. And so we are not going to bluff our teachers, because we recognize that if you look at the venue where this event is going to be held, this payback time for the boys, and our friends and our families.
Wow.
So we want to say Happy Teachers Day again to our teachers. The union is going to do just like we have been doing over the years, meeting our teachers, complimenting them for what they've been doing. And in across this country, we are going to be offering tokens to our teachers. As a matter of fact, let me take time off to say, Mark, and I know I'm running out of some of your time, but let me take time off to say thank you to GTT, our new CEO there, Mr. Damian Blackburn. As a matter of fact, since that guy came to Guyana, he endeavored to meet with the unions, and he met with us at the GTU. And so tomorrow he's partnering with us to ensure that our teachers are respected, they are recognized, and they are rewarded for their dedication. We also have our other partner, the Surya Insurance Company. They're also partnering with us tomorrow to recognize the services and to give recognition to teachers' service. And we want to thank them immensely for coming on board with us, and in recognition of teachers who taught them themselves.
All right, and I salute all teachers as well. We here at 107.1 FM, we salute them, all of the teachers. In fact, I got a message from the folks at Andrew's Supermarket. They're urging all teachers to go down there and shop at Andrew's Supermarket, that they get something special for them. Just show that you're a teacher, and you never know. And, the food that they're talking about, whoever, Priya, wherever they're going, let Priya know that teachers do not eat wild laba and other wild animals, mind you. I'm just being wild, that's all.
Well, I know the teachers wouldn't talk about wild lava, but the teachers would say wild
something
hog.
Else, something else.
We don't eat that. So come different.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. Enjoy your birth anniversary. Take a drink for us. I wish I had a singing voice. I would have been doing that for you. But God bless you and continue to struggle. When you pass by Coffee, Square of the Revolution, give my regards to Coffee.
Thank you so much, Mark, and good night to you. Thanks for your wishes. And to all your viewers, the struggle is real and the struggle continues. We will continue to stand there regardless.
Good. Thank you so much. Ms. Carter McDonald, Member of Parliament for the APNU AFC Coalition. Teachers' Day tomorrow. Happy Teachers' Day to all, every single one of you. And thank you for your service to the nation. Thank you for what you do. In fact, under this installed regime, there's a tremendous amount of uncertainty that is happening throughout the length and breadth of the country. And for those of you who are listening for the first time, you're hearing this word for the first time, uncertainty. And just to have you know that that is the word of Irfan Ali, uncertainty. So don't run away with any other idea or whatever. And to all the teachers also, how can I forget those beautiful, those hardworking teachers at IFLOT University? Oh, yes, they're hardworking teachers there and professors at IFLOT University. And I have to salute them on behalf of Mr. Mohammed Irfan Ali, all those hardworking teachers at IFLOT University. And thanks to our operator, Lemon, thanks to all of you. But before we go, earlier we mentioned the fire chief. His name is Edo or something. Fire chief fainted at scene. Every time the fire chief goes at a fire scene, he faints. And so at this building, Sharon's building, when he was there, he fainted. I don't know. Gosh. Should we call him the fainting fire chief? These guys have no control of the fire scenes. They cannot and always quick to rush to say arson. This is what is happening here now. And back to this fire at Brickdam Police Station, even if it was. We don't know. But they're claiming that this guy, Green, confessed. And this is the weapon. Look at those weapons. A lighter, it looks as though it doesn't light. A piece of sponge, it looks like a buns. And that wire, it looks like it can do a hell of a lot of things. That wire there. And just imagine taking that sponge, squeezing it on that wire, and then pushing it through the ventilation a little, I got it, heaven knows what, and pushing it all the way up. And sorry that I'm saying it like that, pushing it all the way up, right? And then turn it in the direction of some documents. And that's how they're claiming the fire started. There is no opportunity now to go back to the crime scene, secure the area. As I've said in the beginning, number one, you identify scene dimensions, etc., etc. You do these things. They were missing. So there's no longer crime scene. Establish security, meaning you tape the perimeter, depending on the number, whatever. You're seeing the steps. Step number 3, you create a plan to communicate. You create that plan. Nothing at all. Step number 4, conduct primary survey. You identify potential evidence. You take pictures and all these things. But what these guys did at the Brickdam police station, they start to bulldoze every single thing. Every single thing. All because there is an alleged confession. But let me say this, even before the confession, they started to bulldoze the place. Number 5, document and process scene. They got to document and process the scene and number it from 1, 2, 3, whatever. They haven't done that. Process number 6, conduct secondary survey, conduct another walkthrough, go back through the scene, walk through the scene, and all these things. Nothing. 7, record all and preserve evidence. You preserve the evidence, walk around. So even if this guy says that he confessed, according to them, that he confessed to a crime, you don't accept that. You go back to the crime scene. They haven't done that. But this poor little chap, whatever his name is, you guys help me out. I know his name is Green, right? Green. Poor Green. He doesn't have a lawyer. He doesn't have anyone to speak up for him. He probably wasn't read his rights. He probably wasn't told that he has a right for a phone call. He probably wasn't told that he has a right to have a lawyer. He probably wasn't told any single thing, nothing whatsoever. And so at this time, I can say to you guys that the possibility is very high that the police, they're taking advantage of this guy. This guy is operating under duress. This guy is scared of the police. Look at him there. Look at this guy. They're walking him. They grab the mattress. This is it. Look at it. And they're going to try to say that he pulled out, he's the one that damaged that. But those things in a jail cell will always be damaged. You know why? Because there's some guys who looking to pull that up, rip it, knot it up, probably put it between some piece of paper to find something to smoke and all these things. Nobody's going to rip that out in order to go and burn any place down, knowing that there's a high possibility that if that place catch a fire, guess what? There's a high possibility that they will burn to death, that they will die. I know of these things. I've been there, done that. Here's the evidence. I have been there, done that in the Cam Street when they were planning on burning the entire prison down. And if it wasn't for that guy right there where that red marker is, if it wasn't for that guy, I don't know if anybody recognized that guy right there that actually said to the other prisoners, do not light the prison. Do not burn the prison. Do not burn any mattress. Because if that were to happen, guess what happened? All of us would have been roasted. And I would have not been here today to talk with you guys on 107.1 FM. And maybe the PPP guys would have been so happy about that. And so the point is, the prisoners listened. They said, no, they can't burn that entire door. They can't do that. I was actually down the lower level, sealed off in a concrete area when they were about to burn the burn the building, burn the entire prison down, right? Look at me, handsome looking guy. Look at those prisoners. Oh gosh, brings back memory. Look at me there. Oh gosh, Jack J probably smiling. Huh? Look at me, that's me. Yeah. And so the sensible thing to do, and those prisoners knew, right? And there were a couple of hundred of prisoners right there. And so they knew that they could not set that place afire because all of us would have been roasted, right? And when you compare that now to what the police, what they are now alleging happened at the Brickdam police station, and that the fire started because of some prisoner push something. The police always with this thing, somebody push something, right? So they're now saying that the prisoner push a piece of wire. Look at the wire. Push a piece of wire up some little piece crease, and this wire reached all the way to some where documents are being stored, and all these Jim Cock bring Ram Goat stories. This is getting interesting. Very, very interesting. You know why? Because I do not believe the story of this guy, what's his name? Clarence Green. I do not believe what the police is trying to say to us. I do not believe that this guy confessed to anything. I do not believe their story. They haven't proven their story to me at all. And I know 99.9% of you would agree with me that this story, they got to come, they got to go and come again. I am not buying this story at all. I want this guy to get legal representation. I want him to get a lawyer. I don't know if Dexter Todd is watching. I don't know if Nigel Hughes is watching. I don't know if Darren Wade is watching. I don't know if other lawyers are watching. But I hope that they will go to the police station and request to meet with this guy so that this guy can get legal representation. And if the police hides him from his lawyers, it simply means that the police do have a lot to hide. I'm not saying that they're hiding him from his lawyer, but a lawyer should head down there. Were I in Guyana or practicing attorney, trust me, I would have been knocking at the police doorsteps, requesting a meeting with this guy and offer my services for free, because we need to get to the bottom of this situation. And I put my last 5,000 Guyana dollars on the line that this guy will tell a different story from what the police want us to believe. Trust me on that. What else we can say? Nothing else really, right? You guys were really afraid. You guys were really afraid when Facebook went dead. WhatsApp went dead. It's like y'all couldn't function without Facebook. Y'all couldn't function without Instagram. Y'all couldn't function without WhatsApp. And guess what? I was peeping. I was smiling at a lot of you, right? But we at 107.1 FM, we have backup plans for y'all. Don't worry. Y'all will always get us. And guess what? The couple hours that Facebook went out of existence, you know what? Mark Zuckerberg lost $6 billion. That's a heck of a lot of money. You know what I will do with $6 billion? You know what? The first thing I will do, I will stop at Quality Food Mart, Plus Mart, there by Borby's Car Park, and buy me 2 pieces of chicken. Yummy. I love you guys. I will be back tomorrow, same place, same time, right here on 107.1 FM. And if we have any breaking news story, you know, we'll give it to you guys. But concerning Jack Dale going up to Borby's and making the people a mockery, guess what he has tonight? This is for Jack Dale. He went to Skeldon. He think them people stupid, but them people are stupid. They get sense. They get sense, good sense. Thanks to our guest, Anil Sugrim, the counselor for Skeldon there, Pastor Anil Sugrim, and also thanks to the Member of Parliament, Miss Coretta McDonald, who celebrates her birth anniversary tomorrow. So in advance, happy birthday to you, Miss Coretta McDonald. And if any one of you celebrating your birth anniversary today, happy birthday to all of you. If you're a little under the weather, speedy recovery. If you have lost a loved one, our deepest condolences to all of you. Tomorrow, same place, same time. Mark Benschop here on Straight Up 107.1 FM. And to our operator, Lemon, who has been promoted to assistant producer, thank you so much for a great job. God bless you.
I feel